Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever the time of the day you are watching this. Welcome to today's episode of the R.A.H podcast. I am your host, Rahsaan Corbin II. I'm joined by my co-host, Omar Dixon. I'm gonna say your full name.
Good
I don't know if whichever you prefer.
either or, it don't even matter at this point. You already said it. Good
Omar
afternoon,
Dixon.
everybody. Good evening.
And then we have a very special guest today, Avery Layne, former national chairperson of NSBE. Say what's up to the people.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah, let me tell you about Avery. Avery was one of the most calm people I met within NSBE, bro. Everybody that I met on the executive board has been like, yeah, like every energetic. Avery, what's up, man? He's like very soft spoken, like, well, he'll like get his point across, you know what I'm saying? But yeah,
There's a joke behind that, but I'm gonna. Should I say it now or should it wait?
Is it appropriate?
It's appropriate.
Okay, go ahead.
So a lot of people have told me, so yes, that is like naturally my personality, like very low key and calm and all that stuff. But there are a lot of people who also say like, oh, Avery, you're also just like so calm under pressure. And I'm like, yeah, that's because I have the type of anxiety where I shut down. So you think I'm calm, but
it's just like a coping
I'm like,
mechanism.
yeah.
Okay.
But hey,
autopilot.
you know, whatever the people want, you know, whatever perception helps.
Got you. Well, thank.
I like the answer though. That's a good.
Yeah, no,
answer.
that's a good answer.
I am wherever you need me to be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Especially being at that level of you know, not seniority but leadership as well. It's really good to have no one to shut down, like pull your energy back in. So, but yeah, appreciate being on, Avery. Yeah, that's all I can say. Thank you being on. You wrapped up last year. Congratulations on your new position as National Chair Emeritus for this school year or this fiscal year. And yeah, let's dive right into the interview. And as y'all know, we're gonna do the icebreaker. Omar, kick us off.
All right. So the first question we have today is: would you rather have the power to control fire or water?
ChatGPT can't help you.
This is a good question, because I want to say fire.
Fire.
Pick fire.
Fire Lord Avery.
I still think.
Yeah.
That scene when what's it called, when they're about to start the battle and Ozai like throws his arms down and shouts into the air and the fire comes from all three.
A fire star.
I'm just like,
fire star.
That yes.
Man.
All right. So second question: would you rather have the ability to instantly learn any skill or have a photographic memory?
I feel like those are kind of overlap, but like
I would say instantly learn any skill.
Give me that photographic memory. be like that one girl off of Ant Farm.
If you watch Suits, what is his name? The boy off of Suits. I forgot what his name was. Dang. He had a photographic memory. He remembered the whole entire law book in one sitting.
Oh no.
Like every law he knew. And I'm like, wow. His name is Mike. That's what it was.
Mike Lowry.
Nah, that's I can see that being real useful.
See?
Imagine getting into an argument with somebody and it's like, actually, you are remembering that wrong. Because here's exactly what happened. Who are they to refute you? You know?
No, nobody but yourself. Literally. All right. Would you rather get $25,000 for yourself or $100,000 for your best friend?
$100,000 for my best friend.
I plead the fifth. Is there a happy medium?
Sometimes not answering.
We get 50-50. We get 50 bands each.
Yeah, your best friend's not giving no 50 bands each. Let's be honest.
You know what?
They got bills to pay. They got school payments. Most of that money's going to that, and then they may give you a little cut after.
For sure. For sure. We good with that. Okay, for
Or
sure.
they could just give me 25 and I'm gonna be like, look, I would have had 25. I could have been greedy, so you should just give me from your 25 and you still up 75.
Okay.
See?
Like, come on now. You know?
But is people going to think like that? No. Let's be honest here.
By the way, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. When I said I plead the fifth, I will give my friend 100 bands. You know what I'm saying, to help him out.
He's
saying that 'cause it's on
Not from my
record.
pocket. Not from my pocket. Not from my pocket though. It was from somewhere else.
He's lying, Your Honor. Don't believe that.
It's only because this is recorded. If this wasn't recorded,
He would have said something else.
Answer. Yep.
Anyway, any more questions, Omar?
All right, last one. Would you rather have the ability to control dreams or never have to sleep again?
Control dream. Can I control only my dreams, or can I control other people's dreams too?
Ooh.
I would say anybody's, because it says dreams and it just doesn't give it any type of specific from there.
Oh man, he gonna be like Freddy Krueger.
Listen, now I plead the fifth. Now, but nah, you know, sometimes people need a good dream to get them to, do something in their real life, and so I might just slip in there and be like, hey, you need to do X, and then they'll wake up and be like, I really got to do X, and I'm like, oh, what a surprise! I was just thinking that you needed to do that.
It reminds me of that Rick and Morty episode where he snuck into his teacher's house and then put himself inside the brain and said, give Morty an A. Give Morty an A.
I'm gonna give Morty an A. That was the first season.
Going deeper and deeper into the dreams.
Yeah.
But
all right, that's the last question.
Yeah, thank you for participating in our icebreaker. Now it's back to our regularly scheduled program with the interview. So before we dive into, I really want to talk today about your time within NSBE, because I know you were heavily involved even prior to being, chairperson, because you got to build up to that role. It's not something you just jump into. We want to get we want to get to know about you a little more, about like what makes you you, like your background, what are you studying, like where you from. So like, where you from, where you go to school right now, and what are you studying?
All right. Well, I am from Prince George's County, Maryland. I was born and raised here. I go to the University of Maryland, College Park. I did my bachelor's here in mechanical engineering. I'm currently getting my PhD also here in mechanical engineering with the research focus in indoor air quality, which is new. The research focus actually used to be energy efficiency in buildings, but a few months ago, changed the topic. So there's still some energy stuff involved, but the indoor air quality piece is now the core.
Got you.
Yeah.
What made you choose? First off, was a PhD always in your end goal for after undergrad?
Remember, in my undergrad, I think it was my second year. It was coming up to the summer. I was having a conversation with a mentor of mine, and I didn't have an internship. I also wasn't very interested in getting one. And he was like trying to talk to me about, you got to build your resume, do X, Y, Z. And I was like, yeah, whatever type thing. And he just looked at me and he was like, do you like guiding your own work, like being a self-starter for your work and all that stuff? And I was like, yeah. It's like, you like naturally curious and all that stuff? I said, yeah. He said, I think you might benefit from going to grad school. I think if that's how you'd rather operate in the world, it's probably better to go to grad school and then find work from there. Because when you have that level of degree, you're able to, guide the work that you do a lot more closely. So then I gave it some thought, got involved in some research while I was an undergrad, and I was like, yeah, this is where I need to go. Also because not just for that research work piece, but one of my big things is also education. I love teaching people. The point where you can like explain something to someone and then the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh, I get it. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful. And so I'm like, okay, I can merge the way I want to work and the stuff I want to work on, i.e. the research piece, along with this love and passion for teaching. okay, research plus teaching equals professor. And to be a professor, I'm gonna need a PhD. So I'm like, hey, now here I am.
Nice. Yeah, I will say that's one thing that stuck out to me when I first saw you on stage during I think it was during the debate for chairperson, NSBE 49 in Kansas City. Like the way you were talking, you were like taking a step back and you were like building up to it like a teacher usually does when they're going through a subject. That's one thing that stuck out to me. So I'm like, yo, this dude is real cool. You know what I'm saying? He's real
And to be
cool.
honest with you, that is on purpose because everything that I do, I look at it as okay, there's I look at most, if not all things, as there's an opportunity to teach something here. You know, in the same way, there's also an opportunity to learn something in everything. So I'm like, let me present this in a way where people will actually take something away from it. Because that's even, not to get too far ahead in all these things, but that's even something that I think we can do a better job of in NSBE because once you get to like national level elections and all that stuff, you're talking about, oh, this scale of the organization and where it should go and XYZ. And, I mean, shout out to Omar, you've been a senator, but the average senator is probably a freshman or sophomore. And they're like, yo, my understanding of NSBE might still be like the university organization slash club level understanding of the organization. And so it's like, okay, I can't just throw out these things and hope that they're like, oh, those buzzwords sound great. Let me vote for him. It's like, no, let me at least try to help you understand what I'm saying and why I'm saying it. And, it should land better than if I just threw the buzzwords out and tried to answer it in, I don't know, 30 seconds the stereotypical way.
Got you. Yeah, like even when you spoke at RLC last year, FRC, all the above. Every time I saw you speak, it was like I'm all ears. I got my little notebook on the side. You know what I'm saying? Always, yeah.
If,
I'm not exaggerating. The thing is, I'm
hey
not
man,
exaggerating, man. I'm not
if
exaggerating.
if only I know this is recorded and I know there's only but so much like Nesby things I should probably say that people in the background know that we're not supposed to admit, but like as a member who has sat at those conferences, the State of the Society presentation, I'm not going to hold you. Probably one of the parts where I'm like, yeah, I don't need to too much pay attention to this. So it's like, okay, again, how am I going to present this in a way where somebody's going to care? Either
Mm.
I'm going to explain all this stuff in detail with, added humor here and there, or I'm going to just read what's on the slide and then I'm going to go home and be like, well, I presented it. What else do you want from me?
Bruh.
That's not worth nothing, man. That's not worth nothing.
I'll never forget at FRC. Avery went, you guys can read the slide. I'm just gonna say what I want to say. I was like, that's real. Because even in like senior design or engineer design concepts for undergrad, one of our professors he emphasized don't read off the slides, especially if you have like bullet points. Don't read them off them directly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go into like an explanation, then talk about them.
Yep.
Don't read right off the slides because even if you're like looking up at the slides, I'm pretending like a board's right here, but like it's just my album wall. Like even looking at the slides, you're not looking at the crowd. You're
Exactly.
dying down on engagement and whatnot. You're not
You
connecting with the
connecting.
people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Exactly.
that's very important. But yeah, I'm glad we got that out the way. Yeah, and I remember even last part. I remember even like I think after they announced you, I see you DM. I'm like, yo, congrats, man. Looking forward to work with you. Because at the time I was stepping up to be president
Mm-hmm.
of my chapter. So I was like, yo, Avery would be a good person to connect with and whatnot. So and look at us
Uh,
today.
I gotta say he had my vote.
Appreciate it. Appreciate
But
The
yeah,
part,
but yeah, let's
look,
what you about to say, Omar?
but I would say you are not lying when he has a powerful voice, even though it's very soft spoken. It is very powerful for what he has said, especially when I was there listening. He's one of the only people who actually stuck out to me about saying something that actually truly was trying to advance this organization into something better than what we were. Yes, we was at a good limelight as then, but what can we do more to make this better? And it really stuck to me.
Yeah, and that's
That's what's up.
one thing I'm trying to get at with this podcast, not just being leaders, but passing on that information to those who want to be leaders. Because like for me, that's the whole reason why I wanted to start this. Cause I'm like I sit on so much. Well, a couple years of I won't say so much. It was a lot of experience within 3 years. I was on e-board, but like people still come to me for advice and stuff. But I'm like, I'm working a job now. I can't always pick up the phone and be on the phone for like 4 or 5 hours anymore. Like I have to even sending messages, text messages back and forth. I can't do that all day, sending paragraphs, voice messages. So I'm like, tangible resources. So
Set a set
yeah,
time, like I do. Set a set time where I check my phone. It's only like 5, 10 minutes. Other than that, it's me sticking to what I need to do at that point in time. It's kind of like what I was taught back in freshman year. It's time management. Even when you have school and you're doing homework and trying to be social and trying to go do outside activities, organizations like NSBE, you have to do time management in the same way with life and working. Time management, where you, once you get off of work, sometimes you got to leave work at work until it's brought back up and brought to you. And that's why I keep that little period where I leave whatever issues I'll have at work, whether somebody made me mad or something that's happened where it did not work properly, leave it at work. I walk outside them doors. I can think about it, think about how I can make a solution for it tomorrow, but leave it there. Keep pushing on to now being there for my friends, being there for family, making sure I have that time period where I call them, check on them, because you never know what they're going through.
yeah. But yeah, let's get back to our uh guest for today, Avery. So before I dive into the leadership part, like when it comes to public speaking, did you take any classes or were you part of any like clubs or organizations that help with your presentation skills, or was it just like through the research you did?
Nope. It was 1 second. I'm going to
Mhm.
cough again, but this time I'm going to go on mute. No need to edit and post.
Keeping it
All right,
real
there we go.
human on here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So,
And
a lot of it came from, I don't even know frankly, I don't even know where it came from. Some people do genuinely just have gifts for certain things. And I think that is something that I had. Now, of course, it gets refined though over the years. The big piece where it got refined was, I mean, to be frank, I've been like pushed into a lot of situations that have forced me to speak in front of people. And so then, you get some practice and you learn things from there. But even from those times in the beginning, even then folks were like, oh, the way that you, again, like we talked about before, the way you put things together, the way that you make things flow, that carries a lot and that helps it go really well. And so I think one of the big things that helps, and that's probably where, a lot of folks can do some work in terms of how to get those things to how to speak well. A big part of it is flow. If you're able to organize your ideas well, your thoughts well, and then go from there, then you'll be gold. And for what it's worth, I do like writing, and I've been told I write well. And so then it's just a matter of, okay, now how do I speak these words that I've written? A funny story, and it came up a few weeks ago because of our high school reunion. But I was salutatorian for my graduating class, and I had a speech written, and the people who were helping me in the valedictorian practice, they liked the speech. And then, like maybe 1 or 2 days before graduation, I was like, I got something else I want to say. I got something completely different that I want to say. So I scrapped the first speech and rewrote a new second speech. And I think I started it, it had to be 2 days before because I started writing it that night. I finished it in the middle of the day. And then I showed it to the two people who were helping me in the valedictorian work on our speeches. And they read it and they looked at me and they were like, how did you churn out two graduating class worthy speeches and one of them on this short notice? And I was like, look, I had something to say. And so, I wrote it on paper and now here we are. And so if you can write and organize your thoughts well, that is what really carries. Because like you said, the way that people can make you understand things, make you feel things, et cetera, et cetera. That's how folks really get to say that you're a good public speaker. And then from there, you pick up tips and all these things. One of the big tips that I remember learning, try not to, and I'm doing it right now sometimes, but try not to use vocal fillers. Instead of using vocal fillers like and just pause. Just pause, gather your thoughts really quickly, and then go for it. It can't be too long of a pause, but if you pause just a little bit and then go into things, people will be like, oh, wow, did you see the pause that he gave? He's thoughtful. Yeah, he's thoughtful. So, again, a perception thing, but it does really well.
Yeah, even for me, a lot of people throughout undergrad, they were like, "Oh, Rahsaan's a really good speaker." Da, da, da. People were asking like for tips and stuff. I was just like, "Just do it," because I've been doing this public speaking thing since high school. Like my dad was even he was even caught off guard by how I was able to get up on the mic in front of people and just speak and
Mhm.
whatnot. Now, of course, I had bumps and I grew since then. Even then, I'm still growing as a person, as we all do. And
Mhm.
one thing I will say is beneficial that has been helping me with the way I talk is one, doing this podcast because I get to verbally communicate more what's on my mind. And two, I'm in the Toastmasters Club at my company. And if you don't know about Toastmasters, they help you with your public speaking. You'll have meetings, people will do speeches, and you get little critiques on the side. They'll let you know when you're using too many filler words, using and they have a counter. Literally, they'll say like, "Well, you had 13 you had 13 so's," stuff like that. So I think that's very important. But I just wanted to share my kind of feedback with that as well.
May I add two
Just
things?
used it right there.
Uh, two things. One that I'm going to add, another is a joke. So the first, I'm actually going to start with the joke. So
Go ahead.
there are a lot of times in NSBE when someone will like mention their company or a company or something, and I'll always, I'll throw it out jokingly to them on the side, but I'll be like, did so and so pay for that mention? So I was about to do that with the Toastmasters thing, but then I was like, oh, this isn't the
Oh no, 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 no!
environment.
This is me.
We
When I
helping the
promote
people.
stuff, even when I'm wearing my NSBE polo. First off, side note, one of the people I work with called me a walking advertisement for NSBE because I have like 4 polos.
You are.
Oh man.
But yeah, what was the?
But
But yeah, so no one paid me to say this. This is me coming off of how it helped me, and I want to share it with the people out there.
yes,
So,
yes.
and there was the other thing you were going to say.
The second thing is find people whose speeches you like. Look at how their speeches are written and then listen to the way that they present them. Because then you can start to pick up on the things that you like, and then you can start to try and incorporate that into how you speak. And then from there, you'll figure out, okay, what is truly natural? What does fit? What actually is my style? And then you can go from there.
Got you. I appreciate your feedback with that. Omar, do you have anything you want to add?
Sir. You said everything I needed to say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's dive into your journey within NSBE, your journey to being now National Chair Emeritus, but we'll take a step back, your journey to being chairperson. So when did your journey for NSBE first start? Did it first start undergrad? Were you part of NSBE Junior? Like, how'd you get involved?
So I was in NSBE Junior only my senior year. So just very barely, I can say I was an NSBE Junior student.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a substitute teacher of ours who, you know, he just asked me one day, he was like, yo, have you ever heard of NSBE? And by this time, I knew I wanted to go to college, do mechanical engineering, all that stuff. But he was like, hey, have you ever heard of NSBE? And I was like, nah. And then he asked like a few other students if they'd heard of NSBE, and they were like, nah. And he was like, okay, we're going to fix this. And I think like within a week or two, he had a college tour at Howard organized with their NSBE chapter.
Nice.
And so it was that simple. And then he was like, yo, I've heard that this school has an NSBE junior chapter or used to have an NSBE junior chapter, and right now it seems inactive, and we're going to fix that. So, kind of restarted the chapter there. But then once I got to college, I was like, yo, I need to find the NSBE chapter on this campus because that's where I need to be. According to these folks, that's where I need to be. So that's where I'm going to be. And so then at our org fair for freshmen, called FreshCon, it's an org fair for Black incoming freshmen. There was the NSBE table. It was the first table that I sought out. I found them. And the funniest thing about the people I met at that table, okay, their names were Reggie and Janae. So Reggie was not the president that year, but he would go on to be the president the following year. Janae would go on to be the president the year after him. And then I went on to be president right after Janae. And I
That's
was like,
crazy.
oh, wow. So I
That's
met
crazy.
my two immediate predecessors, the first NSBE people I ever met at this chapter. Oh, by the way, the president for the year I was a freshman, she was a college student who helped with this pre-college program that I was in. Oh, by the way,
Keep going. Keep
the
going.
first general body meeting that I went to, the first person who came up and talked to me, his name was Jason. He was a former chapter president. And so I was like, okay, all right. Well, obviously, you grow up and then you learn the lore of all these people. And then it's like, oh, okay, wow, I guess, God had, my mom talks about it sometimes with her life. She's like, there are times where you're just like, man, God clearly had his eye on me. And it's like, okay, God clearly, wanted me to do something. And so he just started throwing people in the way to be like, all right, you need to do X, Y, Z. I said, okay. So that's how I at least got introduced to the chapter. Went my first year. Obviously, it was great. I applied to be on the board. I applied to be academic excellence chair. I didn't get it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But, I'm going to be a part of the committee and I'm going to learn all that I need to learn under the current academic excellence chair. Because when I apply again, I'm going to get it. And I did. I applied against like 6 other people and they picked me. And I was like, oh, thanks. And so then we started to go from there. Did my work as academic excellence chair. Then towards spring break, going into convention, I had some ideas of what I wanted to do next because I wasn't too sure. Because I was like, okay, I could come back as academic excellence chair and do the things that I didn't do before. I could go up and be president. I could go up and be regional academic excellence chair. Or I could just say, hey, I think the most important thing that I can give to the chapter here is that I make myself available to be a tutor for stuff. And so maybe I just don't do leadership, but I avail myself to the chapter in that way. But eventually, prayed about it. The answer was go be president. So I ran for president, ran unopposed, thankfully. And then I got it. And then we start to go from there. And president was, I think about president the same way I think about being national chair. The phrase that I use is stressful but worthwhile. Even though it's a lot of work trying to run a chapter, especially the one at College Park, like one of the things, so there's blessings that come with being at certain chapters. Like having a chapter like College Park, you have a lot of resources already. There's a lot of infrastructure that's built in that you get to take advantage of. And to be honest, for a lot of well-established chapters, there's a lot of copy and paste that you get to do from year to year. So it's like, okay, just keep these trains running and then, add your own twist a little bit. I think our year we might have tried to add maybe a few more twists than we should have, but it worked out because for the first time in 5 years, we won Region 2 Large Chapter of the Year. Okay. And I was like, oh, this is perfect because that's one of the goals. I didn't tell the chapter that was a goal, but I told the board that was a goal and we made it happen. And so I'm like, yes, this is fantastic. And then I thought NSBE leadership would end there, but 2 things then happened. Well, the first thing is that it occurred to me that I was not going to graduate in 4 years, but rather it was going to be 4.5. So I was going to have this fall 2018 semester where I am still in school. And then I was like, all right, well, what can I do then? I could, again, repeat a position, go to another position or something. And then I remember we were at the Terror Zone Summit that February. And the regional board was talking about all their different positions that they had open for folks. And they started listing them off. And they listed Regional Leadership Conference Planning Chair. I don't know what it was, but the second I heard that was a position, it just clicked. It was like, oh, they have a person on the board who plans that. I want that position. It was immediate because I had been to RLC twice and I enjoyed it, but I certainly knew there were things that I would do differently, especially because one of the things that I had spent a little bit of time talking to one of my chapter members about, funny enough, she went through the ranks up in NSBE too. She bowed out at national membership chair. But one of the things we were talking about at the second RLC I attended when I was president, she was my programs chair. They had a town hall topic about, oh, why is it that people don't seem to want to apply to the regional board? And I remember explaining this to her, and I was like, in the way that I see it, there's this flow of leadership that you go through in NSBE, this expected flow of leadership. So you come in as a first-year student, you're ideally just, getting integrated to the club, the organization. Second year, maybe you'll get a board position, but that's not going to be the case for most people. So you'll probably be at most a committee member or a very committed volunteer, very involved member. From there, you go to a chapter board member. And then from there, you might then be up at the regional board, or you're continuing further in chapter leadership. So if a student is only supposed to take 4 years in college, you don't have that much time to get them on the regional board.
Yeah.
And so it's either you have to supercharge their leadership development at the front end so that more and more people, when they're juniors, feel like, yeah, I can do this. Or you have to find a way to get more grad students involved. And so in hearing all of that, in thinking about all of that, and again, hearing the position, I was like, okay, if this is something to do with the leadership pipeline and leadership development and stuff, I want to be involved. So I applied for the position. It was me against 2 other people. Thankfully, I got it. Helps when you know the chair, but I'm sure that didn't play a role in why. I'm sure that's not the determining reason why I got it.
Quote unquote.
It's okay. It's okay. Hey, he's serving on the national board this year too. But
another full circle moment.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
And so that's how I got into regional leadership. And then after that year, I wanted to go up to the national level because I was like, I really like this leadership stuff. So I want to be doing it at the national level. That position is NLI chair, National Leadership Institute chair. I applied for it and I didn't get it. And I was like, okay, that sucks. But I know I want to do this position. And so I'm going to treat it the same way that I did for the academic excellence chair position. I'm going to learn what I got to learn, and then I'm going to be able to apply for it next time. But there was another thing that happened. This is probably the more important thing. I remember there was a day in my lab. This was after I had not gotten the position for NLI chair, but the national chair at that time, or maybe because it was in April, she was still chair-elect. But in any case, it was Jocelyn Jackson. She gave me a personal call to tell me that I didn't get the position, but that she wanted to know if I would be willing to serve as the vice chair on the National Leadership Conference Planning Committee.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm willing to do this. And so then, I don't think I have it in this phone, but it's somewhere in the notes in the ether somewhere. But I remember sitting in my lab and I wrote this down on a sheet of paper. I wrote out years and I wrote out the position I was going to hold each year. And so it was 2019, 2020 was National Leadership Conference Planning Committee Vice Chair. 2020, 2021, National Leadership Conference Chair, Planning Chair. 21, 22, National Leadership Institute Chair. 22-23 national programs chair, 23-24 national chair.
And look at that.
He did
And
it.
it happened
He hit it.
exactly. It happened exactly like that. And the funny
That's
thing
crazy.
is, after that year being on the NLC planning committee, I did apply and I got National Leadership Conference planning chair. But my predecessor held that position along with NLI chair at the same time.
Ooh.
And so I kind of got greedy and I was like, I'm going to apply for NLI chair and see if I can get it. But then it became clear to me that she kind of did like a good job. I only say kind of in like a joking manner. She did a really good job. Brianna was amazing. Her name was Brianna. Brianna, if you ever see this, you were amazing. But Brianna did a great job. And she wanted to do the position again. So I was like, all right, well, they're not just going to not take her if she did a good job, you know? So, I mean, I still put in my application, but then the day that they sent out the interview notice, I started feeling real weird. So then I took a walk around my block. And as I was coming back up on my house, I had made peace with it. And I was like, I'm going to pull my application. And it's going to be fine because the timeline, even though I'm pulling out of, NLI for this year, the timeline is still on track. So, we're going to see what happens. And yeah, things went the way they did.
No, that's a crazy story.
Hold your shot.
for a few reasons. One, just his first week alone and his first NSBE GBM, president. Oh, that's gonna be me one day. Like you probably would. I don't even know if did you have that in your mind? Like you were going to run president?
I wasn't even thinking it. It's only in hindsight that you realize these things. Because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna be here. And then it was like someone had nominated me, even when I was a freshman, someone had nominated me for finance chair. And then I was like, I don't want to do finance chair because I don't want to talk to the companies. That's not my vibe. But she was like, you gotta run for something. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll find something to apply for. And so, I heard about academic excellence chair and I was like, cool, that's what I'm willing to apply for. But seems leadership was always in the cards. They weren't in my cards. They weren't in the hand that I thought I was looking at, but hey,
Man.
So far.
No, look at him now. He's about to get his PhD. He about to be doctor soon.
Yes, sir.
And he served his time at one of the highest, I think it is the highest like collegiate position at a national level.
Yep.
That's an amazing story. I guess I can make a parallel with that of kind of like a foreshadow in a sense. So the now president of the Family FSU chapter, Julius, I met him his first semester. And at the time, he was still trying to get involved. I was programs chair at the time of the chapter. Mm-hmm. And he ended up getting on the board. He's going to be in our roll court. And next thing you know, I'm vice president that year. And then the year after, I'm president. And the year I'm president, he's vice president. And now this year, he's president. I'm like, yo. And I was looking back at some of these pictures from like conference and whatnot. I'm like, yo, I think it was, so Omar, it was me, Julius, Shamar, Christina, and Kennedy. And I'm like, yo, that's 3 vice presidents in one picture right there and 3 presidents.
Yep.
Of the chapter. And I'm like, yo, it's just crazy seeing these moments come to fruition. And if I'm being honest, Avery, I was about to take a year off from NSBE. I think I told you this at RLC. I was about to take a year off because I did leadership in NSBE for the past all 3 years I was at FAMU. I transferred in. Mm-hmm. And I did want to do a regional board when I was an undergrad, but I felt like the chapter needed more people who had like a year or 2 of experience within NSBE. So I originally going to go from vice president to something on the regional board. I'm not sure what position, but I wanted to stay back and make sure I'm able to share my experience from being on e-board because I was with the chapter all throughout the rebuild from post-COVID, having 10 people per meeting to about 50 to 60. and have 140, 150 registered members. So not to throw numbers, but I'm just saying like we grew a lot since then. We grew a lot since then. But yeah, I just wanted to give you your grace with that because that's an amazing story and a long story. And now I'm on professional board for the DC professionals chapter. I'm the membership chair for this year. I told Omar this. I think you're one of the first people I told Omar. I'm like, yo, they picked a good person to pick for this job because all I have to do is talk to people at these tabling events, get events together.
They
And
did. They supposed to. They got the right person for it.
yeah, and I got to get committee together and to help with this because I can't do this on my own. But yeah, that was like a long tangent. But Avery, yeah, but Avery, what were some bumps in the road through your? I want to focus more on the being chairperson. What were some bumps in the roads you faced during your transition from? You said you were programs chair prior, right?
Mm-hmm.
From going from programs chair to president. 'Cause I know it's a really big. It's not a big jump, but it's a big adjustment because you went from managing, events and initiatives to now you're over everything. How was that transition for you?
It was a lot. It was a lot. Um, it's interesting because one of the things that one of the things I've always liked doing is getting my hands into the work. And a lot of what I was told is that, hey, when you're chair, you can't just do that. And so that was a difficult piece, even throughout the term. That was a difficult thing because, you see things here and there. Some are problems, some are just areas for improvement. And you want to put your hands in. But then I was always thinking, like, okay, let me, step back, let me try and hold back because I need to let my people do their stuff. Like, you have to be able to trust that your team is able to do the work that they've been brought in to do, whether they've been elected by the membership directly or they were appointed by the will of board members who were elected directly by the membership. The members have put us all in place in our specific positions because they expect, either directly or indirectly, they expect that we can do the work. So it's like, okay, I'm going to try and hang back and figure out, when to lean in, when not to lean in. And that was really difficult, especially early on, because the big thing we had to do very early on in the term was figure out what to do with our convention, as folks may remember. Or, maybe you're seeing this in the future and you don't have to know.
Yeah, I was
But
going to say, me and Omar were there for the original announcement, and yeah,
Yeah.
well, you can explain because some people who weren't in NSBE or didn't know the original location for NSBE 50 this past year don't know the. We don't have to go into the
The
details, but you can
debacle.
oh yeah.
explain
Mm-hmm.
the change of locations as well as the dates and whatnot.
Yeah. And so the original plan was that convention was going to be in late February in Orlando, Florida. The reason it was going to be in Orlando was because from back in 2021, we had a contract to have convention in Orlando in 2021, but we switched that to virtual because of COVID. So then, in order to, I guess I can say this on recording, in order to mitigate certain, because you have contracts that you have and breaking those contracts come with penalties. So to minimize those penalties, it was like, okay, we're gonna still do convention in Orlando. It's just we're gonna do it, you know, when our next open slot for convention is. That was 2024. So that's how I got moved out there. But then the social environment in
In
Florida
Florida, yep.
was not
Friendly.
something that we thought was conducive to having a large convening of our membership.
Yeah.
It was
And
not friendly at
Mm-mm.
all.
yep. And so, at first, when it was still the elected board, so just the people who had been elected directly by the membership, I tried not to lean in too much with my own opinion because my own opinion for since the moment I heard about the social environment was that we shouldn't go. But I was trying to, be like, okay, let me not influence the board. Let me not, XYZ. And so I'm gonna see what people come to. People came to the conclusion that, yo, we should stay. And it was like, okay, then we're gonna stay. And then things started to change.
Yep.
And then it was like,
Very, very quick. Literally right after convention. Right when we got
2
back to our,
weeks.
when we all got back to our home university, literally a few weeks right after.
2 weeks after it popped out, and it was like, oh,
but the day that the bill was signed, we started to see some fallout. And then it was like, yeah, we need to rethink having it in Florida. And in the back of my head, I was like, oh, so the fallout that I already expected is happening. But hey, seeing is believing. So,
Mm.
now we're seeing it. And hey, as long as you're on the bandwagon now to get us out of there, that's all that matters. So now let's figure out how to get us out of there. And this, again, is where the way that you organize thoughts is a phenomenal thing. We talked as an admin team, so top officers on the board. We spoke, we talked about some of the things we were seeing in Florida, some of the things that we were considering with the organization and how it was operating. And then at the end of that meeting, it was like, okay, cool. It sounds like we need to move. Is anyone here in disagreement with that? No one was in disagreement. I said, okay. So now I need you all to speak. What we're going to do is we're going to prepare a presentation, each of you speaking from your domains of expertise. So the membership perspective, the programs perspective, the comms and branding perspective, and the finance perspective. If we're all in agreement that we need to go, then we're going to make this presentation. We're going to lay out all the facts. But, the facts, I would think, are clear that we need to leave. And then the board's going to vote that we need to go, and then, everything's going. And then the board voted, and then, it was like 11-3, and then, yeah, we then transferred the location to Atlanta, Georgia. Now, was that the most popular decision? No, not at all. Not at all. Among membership, among leadership, there were still certainly folks who were like, yo, we should not have done this. And dealing with that a little bit in the aftermath of making that decision was a bit of a rough patch, but we worked through it as well as we could. And we were then able to get through the rest of the year. I will say, though, that having to sink so much time into that matter, because again, this, like you said, this was like only weeks after convention that we had to start thinking about it. I
Yep.
can tell you, for me, there was the Sunday that we got home from convention in Kansas City, the very next Friday. So less than a week after I've become not even chair, just chair-elect. Less than a week later, I'm on a call with one of our advisors. And it's like, yeah, you need to put some serious thought into whether or not we're going to Florida. Because I'm seeing things and it's starting to affect other things that we're doing even between now and Florida. And so, that means that we sunk time into that from basically March, late March, through, and to get through like the true aftermath of it till nearly like the end of June. That is all your transition time. That is all the time you're supposed to be planning, making your plans for the year. And even with the full year that starts in May, ends in April, that's your first about 2 months gone. It threw us behind on a whole lot. And I don't know that I ever fully adjusted. And so then I don't know if I was able to lead the team in a way where we were able to fully adjust from that. That was it was a big hurdle at that time that had rippling effects throughout the year. And so that was a really big thing. And when other things would spark up during the year, then it kind of like made the angst from the beginning of the year pop back up. So then if there's ever, issues with, say, I mean, I think we can joke about it now, but the PR disaster, do y'all remember the scholarship thing? Okay, all right, cool. So I feel like Omar's
We're not
trying
gonna
not to laugh.
No, that was there was a lot of stuff that just happened that summer alone.
a
And
lot.
I remember well, with that incident specifically, I remember I don't want to say it was incident, the situation.
Mhm.
I remember I still had the NSBE national group chat. It was off mute. So my phone's on D&D. I'm like, hey, group me, either someone on my e-board asking the questions or interacting, someone in the NSBE general body chat for my chapter is interacting, or someone in the regional chat. I see like 50, 60 messages from the national chat.
Dog,
I'm
my
going like this. I'm like, what's going on?
every time I tried to open GroupMe on my phone, it was freezing.
It was
It was
crashing.
freezing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what
I
what
waited till the end.
are we supposed to do about this?
Yeah.
So even situations like that, would come up, and then, you're like, it's the folks in it might disagree, but at least from my vantage point, I could see where, like, okay, this is like, there's an we're upset about this, but this is building on top of things we were upset
Yeah.
about earlier. And
Yeah.
the beginning of that
Exploding.
foundation was trying to figure out what to do with convention.
Not even exploding,
So
imploding from coming from the
It
inside.
it
yeah,
it
Imploding.
it, it, it literally just
yeah.
Yeah,
And so
I think that's one thing I was definitely worried about from, like I said, PR standpoint when it comes to people looking at our organization, because we're not just a national organization, we have chapters on almost a lot of I'll just say pretty much every campus in the country. I mean, I said in the country, in America, in the United States of America. I said in every country. I'm tripping.
and
But
if you
we're
don't have an
international
SB,
too.
we have internationals.
Yeah, we have
Well,
international too, but I'm mainly talking about like within the states, though. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like who people view us in the states. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I was definitely worried about that. I didn't put too much thought into it because, like Avery said, I was still a little worried about like a contingency plan if like funding does get cut off for our chapter, like the Black organizations on campus. Especially because myself and Omar went to HBCU, went to FAMU.
yep.
We're worried about that part as well because we're right at the Capitol, like 2 miles away from the Capitol. We weren't sure what was going to happen. I think some schools were affected in Florida. I'm not sure how they
we
recovered, but it's been within the past year or so.
A
like
But
lot of the
it's been a
smaller
lot.
schools.
I think it was maybe 2 weeks prior to convention was when the news came that I think it was the University of Florida
Yeah,
had
UF.
wiped all their DEI. And, when we got the news about that, I remember talking to one of our advisors, and he was like, man, it would be really interesting if we were still in Florida and then this happened, because now everyone's going to ask the question, well, maybe not everyone, right? But a lot of people who were intent to say that we should leave are going to be like, why are you still here when you're watching this happen within the state lines of where you're convening? And
Mhm.
it's like, there's my my perspective on it. I mean, even how I thought about it then, certainly, like I shared before, I thought we should go, but go as in go from our original location to a new one. But, you know, if you have plans on how you want to engage with things and all that, then I don't think there's a wrong answer. There's a right answer in saying, hey, we want to preserve our membership experience, and we want to make sure that this is an environment where we can convene fully in our fullness of who we are as an organization and as individual members. And we think we can do that elsewhere. We think we should do that elsewhere, and so we will. But there is also the argument that says, hey, you don't run from the places where they don't want you. And it's just that if you're going to be there, you have to be there intentionally. You have to actually do the things. You can't just say, oh, we're going to show out in Florida. And then all of a sudden, the big attraction for everyone in Florida is to like hang out at Universal. That's not the page we have to be on if we're going to go down there. We
Yeah.
have to be on, we are, you know, going to represent ourselves fully, our organization fully, even in the midst of all these things we see in the social environment.
Yeah.
But especially for, because you know, one of the other things people mentioned, it's like, people don't have the luxury of just being able to leave those places, as they so easily, and certainly that's not what we want we don't want people to feel like we're abandoning them, where it's like, we're able to move this convention easily, but you're not easily able to move, right? I can't just turn around to you all and be like, oh, what? You all just need to transfer up to University of Maryland College Park. Like, I can't expect that of you. That's not reasonable, So there has to be this question of, okay, what is it then that we can do to make sure that you all, folks who are still down in Florida or even in other places that have these similar social environments, are able to show up as fully as you all want to and as you all should be able to. And that is, I think it's still a question we're trying to answer, but we are getting closer.
Yeah, that's very powerful, and I'm glad to hear a perspective of literally someone with the push of a button kind of thing. A decision can change the whole convention, the whole situation of it. And I remember, I'm not gonna go too much into it. I remember I was back and forth. There's like the ethical side of me and there's a rational side of me going back and forth about staying in Orlando versus moving from Orlando because I don't think they had an official place yet at the time. Um, at the time when they announced when the bill got signed, and I was like, one hit like the rational side, not rational side, rational and ethical side of me was like, let's stay in Orlando, let's take a stand, let's really show out. And like you said, handle business. We're not there for a tourist attraction. We're here to handle business.
Mm-hmm.
Other side of me was like, we could be in Atlanta. That's a good, for the black population wise, it's a good, city to be in because I'm not sure if it's the official nickname. Someone can fact check me, but I remember one of my old roommates, when he said he was from Atlanta, Georgia, he said the city where black excellence prospers. So that's how I envisioned Atlanta. Every time he did his, we would
That's
say
Tulsa. That's
Tulsa,
Tulsa.
Tulsa. Well, my roommate from 2-3 years ago, he was always saying that when it came to Atlanta, the city where black excellence prospers.
That's
So I thought it
I
would
only
be.
say that's because of Black Wall Street. So
Yeah,
Black
yeah,
Wall
yeah. I
Street,
got it. Yeah, I got the
Tulsa.
reference. I got the reference.
That's where success was prospering.
But yeah,
So I'll give him that though.
I still think at the end of the day, it already happened. The convention already happened, so I can only say so much about it without like changing stuff. But like I said, I was just back and forth on the fence with whether what we should do or not. But like I said, I was more concerned about like my chapter because we make up part of NSBE. That's what some people forget about when it comes to the national organization. They think it's just like you, Avery, you, the national chairperson, you have to solve everything. You have to make sure everybody's happy, accountable, and all that. No, that's why we have the regional level. That's why we have the chapter levels.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, the chapters or this organization is nothing without the members.
Exactly.
So that's what I said a lot. And I said this a few times in like some of the interviews myself and Omar did. Like the love of the people is what keeps me going as a leader. Like they're literally the heartbeat of the organization. They're literally the blood that streams, the oxygen, whatever analogy you want to make up. And then the e-board is the structure, like the body and whatnot. So we're nothing without the people. So I'm glad we were still able to come together as an organization in Atlanta. I think we had like 17,000, 18,000 people this past year versus like 12,000, 13,000 the year prior.
Bro, we blew
huge
that
jump.
We were expecting 15. The goal was 15, and we hit 18. That was, and
Amazing.
during the convention, there were rumblings about we might be at 20.
Yo, oh my God. Okay.
Like that was insane. And the way, because I think maybe once or twice I got to, because where they had the NEB's, the National Board's headquarters in the convention center, you could see down into the career fair. I only got to pass through the career fair like once or twice.
Oh my
But
goodness.
looking down into it, walking the floor and seeing all the people like trying to go in, it was like, man, this is, population attendance number wise, this is fantastic.
That was amazing. It's just like it was a lot of people. It was definitely, I'm gonna be honest, the first conference I went to in Kansas City was a little more overwhelming because I wasn't sure what I was expecting with the population of people. First, I was like, so many people, so many people. But then, like, I stepped out of it. I'm like, get yourself together. You're vice president of your organization, of your chapter. But like, no, I was expecting just that for nationals this past year. I wasn't really phased, but I remember I was helping with like the pre-show. I think we did what was it? Kick him out the it was like a parody to Wildin' Out, kick him out the classroom. And I remember I was up there. I probably shouldn't have been doing this, but I was looking at the teleprompter because it had like the numbers of people who were here. It said 17,938. I thought it said 16,000 the other day. I thought y'all said that. They're like, no, people are still registering. And I'm like, that's crazy. And I'm like, yo, we had like 12,000, 13,000 last year. That's a big jump, especially like post-COVID. We're a few years out of like opening back up. So I think that's amazing. And I can only imagine 50th anniversary of NSBE, 51st convention this upcoming year in Chicago, Illinois. Another great city. I feel like is great to have a conference. Beautiful city.
4 hours away from me.
It's a beautiful city. The nightlife is great. The daytime is great. And I think it's a big enough city for a conference, especially if we're getting more people.
Or you can eat pizza.
And then another major airport too, because I think Chicago O'Hare goes. I don't think it goes international, but it's a big airport.
It goes international. I flew to Mexico out of Chicago.
Okay, yeah, that's a great place to have the conference. So I'm looking forward to it personally. I'm trying to get there. I just not sure how this is gonna age, but I did submit something to do a workshop for Micron, the company I worked for. I knew I was either going to go on behalf of the company I work for to do either workshop or help recruiting, or I'm going with the NSBE professionals, the NSBE DC professionals, just so we're showing out and we're making sure we're well known. And yeah, just support for the chapter, show love and all that. But Avery, I'm not going to lie, all the questions I had on my mind, you kind of already went through. And once that kind of goes back to how well you are, how great you are. I don't even want to say well, how great you are with speaking. Because you went through the whole thing. You went from, like I said, you're building up. You start at the beginning, like ground level, and you just built yourself up. You just swerving left and right in a safe manner. You're swerving left and right in a safe manner. Answer the questions. So closing out. It's going to be very cliche, very basic.
Okay.
What's some advice you would give to someone out there who may not even maybe not inspiring to be a chairperson, but just wants to be a leader in general, like within their campus, within their community, or even with their part of the country they live in? Like, what's some advice you would give to them based off of your story that you shared today?
Okay. So I assume on the podcast, well, either way, I'm going to say it, but I'm going to assume on the podcast, there's going to be a few less restrictions than if I, said it as a representative of the organization. But first and foremost, my faith is the most important thing to me. I'm a Christian. My faith is in Jesus Christ. That is where all the things start from. And so I understand that, for folks who aren't believers, then it's like, all right, man, well, this don't apply to me, but I'm going to get there. I don't remember exactly where the verse is. This is the part that kills me. Every so often I try to quote verses. I don't remember where they are, but I usually get the words right. There's a part where when Jesus is talking to, it's either a crowd or to his disciples, he says that the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. And I remember in a Bible study that I was in, we're reading this commentary. So we read that text and then we read the commentary about it. And what the commentary said was that Jesus's power, you know, of course we understand that he's divine, he's God. And so that's ultimately where the power comes from. But when we think about it at a micro level, it's love. It's extending love in service to other people. If you want to be a leader, whether it's in NSBE, in your community, in work, in anything, you have to start with wanting to serve people. You have to start with wanting what's best for people. And as you continue to work for what's best for people, God's going to figure that out. God's going to figure out how to move you into the positions where you need to be. God's going to move you into the positions sometimes where you want to be. A lot of times it's not always where you want to be, but he's going to put you where you need to be so that way you can continue to serve people in the most effective manner. So if you want to be a leader, if you want to be anybody who's a great leader, it starts with service. Even now, I'm sitting here, one of the most influential people in my life. So I should have mentioned this when I talked about where I was from. I was born and raised in Prince George's County, Maryland, but my parents are not from here. They're from an island in the Caribbean called Grenada. And there was a leader of Grenada. His name was Morris Bishop. I keep a book of his speeches right here. I need to continue reading this book, but he's also one of the more influential people on my life, because when I look at the things that he was about, what he envisioned for the country, what he envisioned for the people, it was about how do we make the life of the people better? How do we make things better for the kids who are coming after us? That's what it's about. If we start from there, then we'll figure out, how to be great, how to do all these things. I'll even, throw in one last final example. Even my own advisor. One of the things that my advisor loves, well, the two things she loves, she's, I guess, like me in this regard, or I guess I'm like her. She likes her research. She loves her research. And she loves mentoring students. And so then it's like, okay, I'm not going out and looking to be honored by people. I'm not going out looking to be in such and such positions. I just love what I do. And I love what I do and know that when I do it well, it's going to help people. All the accolades naturally follow. All the questions about, oh, can we have you do this? We want to appoint you to this, da 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 da. All of that naturally follows. But it starts with, how do I do what I do well in service to people? That's what it's about.
Powerful, 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 powerful answer or response, I'll say.
Doing my best.
And there I go again with the filler words. And there I go with the filler words again. I'm going to start catching myself with that. So now it kind of goes back to earlier when I said you do it for the people. Because keep catching myself. I'm gonna keep going this time. But even for me, I looked up to the Black Panthers a lot. I read a lot of their autobiographies and memoirs, or memoirs, I'll say. So Bobby Seale, Huey P. Newton, they saw a problem within the community, kind of like engineers, saw a problem within the community, and they wanted to be the solution for it and fight on behalf of the people. Malcolm X, of course, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. can go on and on and on and on about our great leaders that came before us, and I always get inspiration from seeing other leaders. That's why I want to bring you on, Avery, because you're a very down to earth person, both within NSBE and within away from NSBE. I remember even at RLC last year, you're like, I just want to talk about research right now. I miss going to my lab. I was like, that's real, because I could talk about NSBE and like business related stuff all day, but like, what do you do outside of this? No, and you're really passionate about your research, and that's what I really dig about it. So yeah, Omar, do you have any closing remarks? You usually have something to say at the end.
Um, the only thing I got to say is what he said. What Avery said is correct. Pretty much says follow God, and He can lead you to a lot of places. And I think the last thing I got is the quote of the day. Most people run from what they're afraid of. I run towards it. That doesn't mean I think I'm bulletproof or that I'm unaware of danger. I experience fear as much as the next man, but one of the greatest mistakes people can make is becoming comfortable with their fears. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson.
Yes, sir. I think he said that in his book. Actually,
He did.
he said it
I
in his
got it from
book.
you.
Yeah, yeah, and I got it from
Got
Simone.
it.
Yeah, it trickles down with the leadership. Also, Simone is one of the senators that served with Omar the year I was vice
My
president. So
twin, my twin.
yeah, so she's one of our first interviews, and now we're here. But yeah, once again, thank you very much, Avery, for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Wish you the best. We'll cross paths at. Well, we're right up the street from me, basically, so we'll definitely cross paths again.
I
Um,
will. I gotta make it out to an SBDC event.
I got
That's what I
you.
gotta
Well,
do.
I got you as membership chair. I will make sure you know that information. But yeah,
Appreciate that.
Avery, we'll cross paths again in the near future. But for right now, I wish you the best of luck with your new endeavor with your research and your new
Thank you.
position on the national chair or national board. Sorry, I'm tripping on my words. NSBE national board in helping us lead to the next, next big year, next national convention, all the above.
And
But
I was seeing you in Chicago.
yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Chicago, March 5th through 9th.
Yeah, 5th through ninth,
Be there.
Yes.
2024. Anyway,
2024.
yeah, just closing out
2025.
2025. I'm so sorry. Yeah, 2025. Goodness gracious.
All
Anyway,
good,
let
all
me
good.
close this out before I trip my words anymore. Again, I trip my words again. But anyway, whatever. Anyway, thank you for tuning in today. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with a friend who may find this very beneficial. Until then, you all take it easy out there, stay safe, and just live your life. Until then, peace out.
Peace.